riding on an asteroid through the solar system. Looking for a shooting star, hoping that I catch you. When you see a UFO, there we go, there we go. When you see a UFO, there we go, there we go.
That y'all give us really helps. So again, thank you for having us, and excited to see what Kinyo and his podcast has in store for us.
Awesome. Clap for Stephen Lucky, guys. You do so much. This garden is super awesome. I'm glad that it's here. I think you guys are too. That's why everyone's here. I love it. I used to do a lot of shows in like bars and stuff like that. And that's cool, you know, but you don't get the same vibe you get there at a place like this. Like I did a show at a juice bar too. That was also kind of cool. But I just knew that I started going to, what's that park off of Broadway? The big one. Brackenridge Park. I started going there more often, and I was like, okay, this is cool. This is more what I want to be in touch with. But then gardens have almost a step up to parks just because they're so much more loving. You know, it's really us doing our job to make a relationship with the earth. It's very cool. So being here, I just feel very positive. And anyway, yeah, so usually I do podcasts. I'm going to record this one, then I'm going to put it up on my podcast, which is some iTunes stuff and a little bit of Spotify, and do Instagram and Facebook videos. So I'm going to put it up there for people to see because I think it's cool. Then it helps create some connection to this place, which is a really awesome place. I'm probably going to turn this down a shades amount. But yeah, so if you're ever on Instagram, go ahead and give me a follow. It's at Kinyo HQ. I mostly do poetry on my Instagram, and actually I mostly do poetry in the world. It's kind of what I do. I'm gonna go do some later tonight at another place in San Antonio because San Antonio has a lot of awesome stuff going on. A lot of micro groups, small groups of people doing stuff that they believe in, bringing out their personal communities, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to start with reading you guys a poem. I hope you don't mind. Is that cool? I heard you guys. Does everyone like poetry evenly? Sir, you didn't. It's my old friend. We're friends. Okay. I'm going to read this poem. And it's kind of why I write poetry. And it's all about art and, okay, never mind. I couldn't find that one, so you won't be receiving that poem. I apologize. I'm going to read this one instead, then. It's called I'm Going Back. I'm on the way back to the past where I'd sit at my chipped wooden desk shuffling blank paper so I could feel busy. I always knew I'd be a businessman. I've been starting businesses since then, and even when it hurt my heart that I couldn't convince them of what was coming, I kept going. Now it's time to go all the way back. First stop is Berkeley, California, where I was born. Shout out to my Nigerian parents for getting me to America, but I'm going back to Nigeria to figure out how many generations of Laddington it took to fulfill the prophecy. I'm going back to the Garden of Eden to tell Eve what I couldn't find the right way to show her then, so we don't all have to wait a millennia, become blind, and kill Jesus to see what's always been within. What's always been written right on her face, that this universe is beautiful, but only half as beautiful as she is. And if we are halfway to heaven already, then I'm going back to my roots. The things that make me who I am, the colors that make me colorblind, the dreams that only I dream, the fears that built my armor for me, the worries that made me want to save you from worrying, the warmth that made me look for my mother, the tears that made me see homeless people, the loneliness that let me know something wasn't right, the grace that let me live past my mistakes, the mercy, and the mercy that let me tell every story like I was the one who won, when really I was just the one who watched it all happen. I'm going back to my front row seat in the middle of me, back to the basics of my identity, because before I can go any further, I need to remember why I wanted to swim in the upper atmosphere. Why I felt like time and space were my pillows and blankets, and what made me believe that whatever is out there for me is a one-of-a-kind thing, castles built with clues left for me in the stars my ancestors named. I used to believe I was psychic, and I was probably right. I used to think I could levitate, and I probably still can, or at least I shouldn't stop trying. I just have to remember what it was like to be 10 years old, handcrafted from possibilities and angel leather. So sure that all my flaws were just temporary, so sure that my feathers were coming soon and that God had been sending me letters that just hadn't gotten there yet. Because even though I'm grateful for all the travels, it feels like I've gone too far from home. I'm tired and I can't find the right hours to sleep anymore, but I'm almost there. I had to lose myself so I could find it again, because this time it's better. This time you're here. I guess that's you guys this time. And we're ready to start building a new beginning. So come back with me to the place where it all started. That's that poem. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Some fanciful storytelling in there. So very cool. I'm going to bring up my guests for tonight. I was actually going to have a couple guests for you guys tonight. Up to me. One guy, the first guy was a comedian. And then I guess his wife was pregnant. Okay. I might be going too far with the inside information, but she had to go. So, stuff happens. It's a big deal. And then the other lady, I just don't know where she is. So anyway, I have one guest for you, but I think I'm going to make up with that by talking to Steven a little bit, because I kind of want to talk a little bit more and capture a little bit more about the mission for Gardopia so that the people who listen to this podcast kind of grasp it later on, and maybe we'll all learn some new stuff. But before that, how are you guys all doing? Good? Yes. Awesome. You're good as well? Why do you guys like coming to Gardopia so much? I'd love it. Does anyone want to expound on that? Does anyone? You can come up if you seem... No, okay, you don't. This is your first time here? Okay. You could expound on what you like about it, but let's see if there's a veteran. Is there anyone who comes here multiple times? Kind of? You're calling someone out. Red hair? Oh, okay. Hey, you've been here a lot. Maybe you could expound on what makes Gardopia for you so cool to come out to. I think that would be... Oh, you'd have to use the mic, though. Yeah. But that would be really cool to hear.
Yeah.
I'd be interested.
So what makes Gardopia so cool to come out to? Yeah. What makes it cool to come out to? So for me, what makes Gardopia really cool to come out to is just the community involvement that you always see. You see familiar faces, but then you always meet new people, and then it's always just a positive experience. Everyone seems to always have a smile on their face. You can get free food that's healthy and sustainable, and it's just always fun. Yeah.
Very cool. How do you see... I'm going to ask you a couple questions because I caught you. So you let yourself be vulnerable to the stage. Now you are exposed to its ravishes. No, I'm just joking. Being way too dramatic. I'm a poet. Anyway, back to what we were doing. For you, how do you see Gardopia impacting the community in the years to come? Anyway, yeah.
In the years to come, I just see it growing bigger and bigger. Since its beginning in 2015, it has grown exponentially, and so I can only imagine how its impact will continue to grow as the years progress. So every year, like if it's a certain amount of people that are impacted, it just doubles as time goes on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very cool. That's cool. And I know Steven, I've talked with him a few times. He talks about his mission of, really getting everybody involved with a garden in the city. San Antonio has a lot of people. I think we can feel so detached sometimes from the workflow of our own lives without really understanding that, it's our job to come here and take care of things like this, gardens, spaces like this. And I feel like it's empowering to be connected to a garden. I feel like it is a very empowering idea to me, because there's a lot of stuff that you can do, and maybe you're waiting for someone else to pay you, or maybe you're waiting for it to show, but really you just working with the ground to produce your own food. I feel like that's a very important part of security. So anyway, I went a little ham there. How do you see that playing out and helping San Antonio as a whole if more people are involved with gardens?
I think that there's a sense of pride in growing your own food. And when you are more aware of what you're putting into your body based off of the food that you're planting and you're cooking and you're consuming on your own, I feel like it creates more of an awareness about what am I eating and what is the benefit of this and what is it going to do for me. And then being more mindful of that, it really does impact, the way that we view our lives and the way that we view community. And so I think that it opens our eyes. It's an awareness. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. You guys clap for her for helping me out. Kendall?
Yes.
Okay, clap for Kendall for helping me out. I think that was super duper important information. I especially liked the last piece about how it kind of is a bump to your awareness. We've been going for a little bit now, so I'm just going to bring up my guest, the one who was able to make it. He's a writer, and we've recently started working together on some other stuff, and so I'm just going to have him read a short piece, and then I'll basically say goodbye to you guys. But I hope that when I put that up, and even you guys, when you think about Gardopia, you think about it as something to be super positively engaged in. I know that you do already because you're here. And I know that they do lots of cool stuff, and I like to be able to have this as part of my schedule so I can do something here. And I know that you guys feel the same way, and I think that's going to be a very positive thing as this place kind of grows. So I'm going to invite my guest, the writer, none other than Clarence Bell III. Okay, I'll record it. And if you could, he's going to read a poem for you guys.
Ipata nawaje jichoze mayat eche kuwena. This is a Lakota call to worship. When the warriors would go off to war, the women, the brides would go to a hill and they would chant this until the warriors came home. And if they didn't come home, they would chant until the wind took them away. How many people believe in a higher power? All right. So this is like Epiphany. It's like being one with God. So if you want to say it with me. Inkpata nawaje jichoze mayat eche kuwena. Love instead of fear. Truth instead of shame, forgiveness instead of anger, kindness instead of violence, gentleness instead of malice, mercy instead of vengeance, grace instead of ignorance, joy instead of hate, endurance instead of weakness, justice instead of corruption, harmony instead of chaos, order instead of illusion, patience instead of self-destruction, balance instead of sickness, reciprocity instead of hypocrisy, calm instead of injury, clarity instead of blindness, peace instead of fascism, righteousness instead of wickedness, vision instead of death, Zen instead of unconsciousness, enlightenment instead of slavery, spirit instead of flesh, pleasure instead of pain. Yahweh is a rational forgiveness from which miracles flow. Here's some scripture to find peace if you need some peace in your life. Matthew 23:12, Galatians 5, and 1 Corinthians 13. Thank you for listening. You can find the copy of this poem on my website, loveration.org. It's a new 501c3, and you can read more about it at loveration.org, like Plantation, Corporation, Manifestation of Love, Loveration.
Still recording, so give it up for Clarence again. That was super cool. Clarence Bell III on Facebook, and definitely check him out. I love to do different stuff with different artists in the community. Try to keep that conversation going a little bit. I don't really have that much for the rest of today, except for maybe to talk a little bit with Stephen Lucky. No, it's actually not that late. It's only 6:46. That's pretty cool. Okay, anyway. So I think I'm going to talk with Stephen a little bit before I get out of there. Stephen. Sir Stephen. I know I'm interrupting a fool. You're busy. Okay. I don't want to take you away from a conversation. I did already. Okay. So, all right. But man, this is cool. So this is the fourth one. This is the only one I've actually interviewed you on, But interestingly, I interviewed you more than a year ago when you were running for mayor on my show when we were doing it at Rebar. And that video's out there for... I'm going to have to watch that just to see what that was all about, because that was a while ago. But yeah, man, I love that your ambition to do good things for the community starts with a garden. And I love that it goes all the way up to different levels of politics and involvement in society. I think that it's very cool, and you've made an opportunity for me to do something like this because you have this space. And there's a few community gardens around San Antonio, but this is but it's kind of like churches, you know? You're not going to be able to go to all of them. You find the one that kind of you connect with, you know? And I think that's this for me. What are your future plans, kind of?
Good question. So right now, we have a couple of projects that we're working on. We are working with the City of San Antonio and Parks and Recreation. There are 247 parks, I think 15,000 acres. And so we have a garden we're putting in at Woodard Park, which is right down the street. If y'all make a right on New Braunfels and you hit the next light on Walters, you will get to Woodard Park Community Center. And so we're putting in a very nice garden. It might be nicer than this garden, we'll see. And so we're excited to see how that goes in moving forward. Another project that is in the works is with Alamo Colleges. They have a workforce development, and we're going to be working with, it's intellectually and developmentally delayed individuals, ages 16 to 24. We're going to be doing a 6-week horticultural training course in like February, March, starting in 2019. We're having our first annual gala. I'm having my back to the crowd. We're having a gala in November 10th, so you definitely come out to that. It'll be a big fundraiser. We're going to be launching, hopefully, a capital campaign to be able to purchase these properties and be able to finance our staff. So those are sort of the things we're working on right now. For the future, you know, my hope would be that we can align and strengthen the ecosystem of urban agriculture. I've been going to different cities on the West Coast and the East Coast and sort of seeing what they're doing, right? There's cities like Atlanta, I just came from, Berkeley, of course, California. You know, you think about Detroit and New York, and, you know, they're doing so many great things in this industry. And so how can we bring that back to San Antonio? So we're going to have an urban agriculture and food summit at San Antonio College on February 8th, 9th, and 10th. And there's a lot of people here that are going to be working on that. And so I'm excited to have the industry professionals as well as the public coming together and not only educating, but having conversations about food security and how can we create food security in San Antonio. I believe that we can create food secure cities, whether it's community gardens, whether it's house gardens, whether it's rooftop gardens, whether it's vertical farms, which is really pushing. There's a really cool podcast I listen to called Urban Agriculture with Dixon Despommier and Vincent Rackinier, and they have gone across the world and talked to so many people. Of course, Asia's and Japan and China are really looking into it. There's a guy in Milwaukee. His name is Will Powers, and he has a nonprofit called Growing Power. He's doing some good stuff in Milwaukee and Chicago. Gotham Greens has a rooftop urban farm on top of Whole Foods in New York. They have, I think, close to 170,000 square feet of growing space on roofs between New York and Chicago. So I just am excited to see, can San Antonio be a food secure city? And I think that this is sort of the seed that hopefully we can get some policy leaders to help us propagate.
Wow, that was powerful. I'm going to have to listen to that back. Yes, definitely applause for Stephen Luck on that. I have a lot of questions, actually. Like I even have like supply chain questions about like what like you think about that and Gardopia. Like, I don't know, because it's interesting to me. Like, how do we get food that we garden to be a larger part of our diet, or how do we get it? Because maybe if it could someday be included in the supply chain, that would be its own financial reward in a certain kind of way. If it was a little bit easier to take gardened fruits and produce to market. Is that even a thing? Is that something you think about?
Well, I think for people to increase their consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables, we need to increase their access. So again, having community gardens is a great thing. I think an even stronger thing would be people having gardens at their own houses, because there's a lot of easy stuff that you can grow, like herbs, right? Rosemary, basil, thyme, mint. These are things that grow extremely with low maintenance, and can take the heat, can take the cold. Greens. Greens have been taken out of the American diet. So you think about not only collards, but cabbage and spinach and kale and lettuce. And that roughage and that fiber helps in our digestion process. And so that's something that's easy to grow, low maintenance, and has a great return. As far as like supply chains, I think that there's farmers markets, right? And there's quite a few farmers markets in San Antonio, but how do you connect everybody to farmers markets, right? And so if these gardens could start to turn into farmers markets, right? So why not every Saturday the garden has a farmers market? It would be a great way. And then also, what's that? Why don't we have a farmer's market here? That's a great question. I think that we should probably move in that direction. We may be, and this is also something in the future, going to the Pearls Farmers Market, possibly starting in October. And so we will be taking some of our produce to that market, as well as working with school garden clubs and having them sort of promote their programs. So yeah, I think that that's a great way to do it as well, just having farmers markets directly at the gardens.
I love it. Very cool. Before I wrap up with you, I kind of want to bring your COO up on stage, because I'm really big on entrepreneurship. I love it. I'm dying on my way through a bachelor's in business right now, and I'm always trying to innovate with my own business. So I'm always, every time I see him, it's super interesting, and I always have kind of a few questions that way. He decided to refill his glass before he came to the stage. Sir, this is Hollywood. We don't have time for you to refill glasses. I'm just joking. Sir. How's it going? Okay, I'm going to be super brief. I thought Steven was going to stay up on stage, but I guess you guys don't. You guys you have a separation of powers. That's what it is. You delegate, and you don't be in the same place at one time. That has to be a huge part of running this thing, though, right? Because you guys are both entire entities, and that's so hard for businesses in the beginning stages, I think, like even believing in those roles enough to give them, I feel that way anyway, the respect of, because when you're starting something, especially as an entrepreneur in the beginning, it's really difficult, I think, to partner with someone else just because so many of your insecurities manifest as, like being somewhat defensive. How do you guys do it?
I think by the way, my name is Dominic Dominguez, so it's great to see you guys here. Thank you so much for coming. I think the great thing about partnering with Steven is it's not just Steven alone. In a nonprofit, you have a board of directors, and they're very powerful ideas and concepts that are being thrown around all the time. And so a little bit of the way that we've kind of cultured the structure of the organization is to have a lot of community involvement, but have a lot of feedback. We don't know the answer to a lot of these systemic issues that are here, especially on this side of town when we're trying to address definitely obesity and diabetes, but then also crime, mental health as well. Being in the garden, there's something known as socio-horticulture, which states that as you are more connected with nature, that you're able to kind of let those life stressors go away, which is a great thing. So in order to combat these very complex issues, you need a diversity in thought. And we can try over and over again to think about it in the ways that we're educated. But early on, we came to the conclusion that it's going to take more than our minds. And that's a very powerful thing. And when you're in some of these conversations with yourself and different board members of different backgrounds, whether it's business, whether it's agriculture, biology, chemistry, nutrition, health, physical fitness, you start to get radical ideas. And these radical ideas are what are needed for this systemic change here. It's great to see, and you know, it's a blessing to have that type of dynamic.
Very cool. Very super duper cool. As okay, so it's clear to me that you kind of have your own, even like, you know, and like you have your own mindset, and you know, like some of the stuff that you touched on was completely different from what Stephen touched on. I'm interested in your strategy going forward, as you see your role developing in the way that you contribute to the growth of the garden. How do you see your strategy in that area?
The actual physical growth of the garden, and as I was telling many of the gardeners that are here, we have our vision, and we envision a society educated and empowered to lead healthy lifestyles through gardening. And so where you guys are currently at is a manifestation of that vision, a physical manifestation of a concept, of a thought. So as we look around, we see community garden raised beds.
In the hip hop community, when someone says something like that, we say bars. That's what we call bars.
They're bars. You see this physical manifestation. You see community raised garden beds. You see an outdoor kitchen, a rainwater retention pond, a stage, chicken coops, bunny pens, all this great stuff. And what you want is, again, for the feedback for the many individuals that are passionate about it, but building upon the things that are essential to manifest that vision. We're always asking ourselves, what else can be useful here? One thing we're seeking is having right over there, where those picnic tables are, is a wood workshop where individuals, specifically children here in the East Side, could come to, and they would take 4 classes: a woodworking class, a nutrition class, a gardening class, and a physical fitness class. And after you're done with those, we will go and we will build you a garden at your home. So that's one way that we're not just building this vision here at this physical location, but rather bringing that vision to the home of people so that they can create that change on their own individual level.
Whoa. Well, thank you so much for that, guys. Please clap for him a little bit. That was really cool. That was some information that I'm going to follow up on personally. Yes, definitely. Super cool stuff, and I feel like I have another way that I can partner with you guys. We'll do it. Thank you guys for listening and paying so close attention. It was really fun to come out here and do this podcast. I'll play a little bit more music, and then I'm gonna go. I know the party's still going on. A Stephen Lucky party always lasts way into the evening because he's so happy here at the garden. I feel like sometimes he sleeps here. He just pulls up a mat next to some flowers. He's like, you know what? I think I'm just going to. That's amazing. Sleep in the heart of the garden. That's beautiful. Again, thank you guys for your attention. Thank you guys for listening. If you want to look for this podcast, you can find it on Go Live with Kinyo. I'm Kinyo. You can find me at Kinyo, Kinyo, on stuff. The things that you look at. If you type in Kinyo, I will come up. Because there's only one. Because I kind of made up the name for myself. So thank you guys so much for coming to Gardopia, though. And I hope you have a really good rest of your night. Oh, did anyone else want to say anything? I can spare a few moments. Does anyone else feel? Sometimes people feel specifically passionate. Okay, let me do that before I stop because that's important. Who's Miss Margaret? Okay. Awesome.
Great. I like your poem.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I should
I like
have read
your
another
poem.
one, actually. But,
Well,
I appreciate
you
it.
wove Eve in there in a way I've never heard before.
What's that?
You wove Eve in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I like to
I've
do
never
that.
thought of Eve that way.
Yes.
She's sexy that way. Yeah, right?
She's like the fox.
right.
So. Everyone has their own Eve, though, so.
Did you hear that poem?
I did, yes. Quite talented. He has a couple of books out.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a hint
All right.
A baker's dozen.
Baker's dozen.
Literally.
So, what impresses me about this is that it, for the work that I do at the Children and Nature Network, it fits into this incredible mosaic of amazing things happening in communities. And we're working, this garden and Stephen's leadership is part of the City of San Antonio's work for the project called Cities Connecting Children to Nature. And we're working with 18 cities now to figure out how to get beautiful places like this and that connection to nature that matters for the heart and the soul and the body to be able to be supported through city government, through the community, through all kinds of ways, so that we can create more beauty for children and families and communities. So it's really focused on equitable access to nature so that not just some people get that access to the nature, but that all kids get access to nature, and that we double down on kids and families who don't have access to it. And so we're working in Atlanta and all of 18 different cities right now across the country to ensure that that happens. And we're putting, nature into preschools. Madison, Wisconsin has got all these preschools with nature play spaces now. San Francisco did the same thing. Atlanta is really interested in its urban agriculture, so I'm really interested in Atlanta and San Antonio kind of hooking up and thinking about Oakland in the mix too, and thinking about how to get urban agriculture to be part of how we eat and how we live and how we grow and how children can touch nature in their everyday lives. And then we're looking at parks and how some of the parks really demonstrate that they might be there, but they might be crappy parks. They might be like barren pieces of grass if they're lucky, or they might have a piece of plastic playground on them, but not really rich with nature. We want those parks to be quality parks for children where they can play and grow and feel that biodiversity that matters, and they can feel that connection to nature and the spirit and the heart and soul that comes with that nature. And we're also working to figure out, and a lot of times, that if the park's there, and even if it's a beautiful park, kids of color don't feel welcome there. The cops get called on them, all the reasons. There's a librarian in St. Paul who takes the kids camping in the adjacent park, and they're mostly black youth and black male youth, and the cops come every time. And this is a librarian and some kids in a nature book club, and they're in the park. So we're working on with the law enforcement and the libraries and the schools and the city and the community members to come together to say, okay, how can we get kids to touch nature, feel nature, have it in their lives so that they can feel well and feel good in their person, and have access to that in ways that other kids do too. So we've been at this for 4 years. We have 3 more years on this round with these cities. We have 18 cities, as I said. We're all coming together in Chicago in a few weeks to figure it out, and it's not easy. These are not easy systems to solve. And Gardopia is a great example of how you take a charismatic leader and some awesome people with a lot of passion and figure out how to make it happen. And it's grassroots. It's not going to, municipal government is going to sweep in. Policy can sweep in, but you've got to get the groundswell going. You've got to show the
momentum and show the beauty of the communities, right? And you got to get the communities going, just like this is happening. So I'm proud of this city, and I'm proud of what's happening here, and I'm grateful to be here. So thanks, Stephen, for all your work. Yeah. Right.
Thank you so much.
Please, a little clapping for Margaret. That was super awesome. That was deep. Another thing, I'm going to go back and listen to this again deeply and think about everything again. That was great. Stephen, are you running again for office at any time? You're going to do it? Need more money. Okay. Well, it'll happen. Someone give Stephen $100,000. Yeah, whoever's watching who has $100,000. If you don't do it, it's called stinginess. So, did anyone else want to say anything? I know you had your hand up. You can donate it to Stephen. You can just make the check out directly to us. I don't think you'll object that. Just a direct check, Stephen Lucky. Or you can become a member on GardopiaGardens.com, right? Is it .com or .org? .org. Okay, GardopiaGardens.org. You had your hand up. Yay, nay? Oh, I could have come down there.
I'm Pastor Maxine, and I just wanted to say that I'm thankful for this Gardopia. I was telling Margaret earlier I had another I in there, Cardiopia. I had misspelled it. But I'm thankful for this program and for all that's going on here. I didn't fully understand all when I'd heard about it, but I'm thankful for it because it's a way of getting the community together and letting them see that there's more than just fast food to eat. And that's very important. I had mentioned earlier how I had changed my way of eating, and it helped my body. And when we're consuming fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, it helps to get rid of different things in your body. So a lot of people don't even understand that. And so I'm thankful for Gardopia because it's helping different ones. I see the names. The last time I was here, so much happened afterwards, and I was so thankful to see the documentary film, how that there were felons that had started growing, and it had helped them, those that had anxiety, depression, it had helped them. And they began seeing that they could do something, that they could be calm and not have to fly off and be all upset and destroying things. So this was one way that they had an outlet to cultivate something. And so I thought it was really nice and had company.
Thank you so much for that. All right, well, this was officially the best show in San Antonio this year. We ended awesomely. Thanks again. I'm going to play some music for you guys. Yeah.
You're welcome.